Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Advanced Bass Fishing, and appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to watch the video today and spend some time with me. And guys, today we're going to be talking about slip sinkers, and I want to talk specifically about the weight of a sinker that you use, because the weight of a sinker and how fast your lure falls or how slow it falls with that sinker, it has a tremendous impact on how many bites you get. It has a tremendous impact on your efficiency of how you're fishing. So I want to sort of go through all the different sinker sizes I use in today's video and sort of describe the situations I use them in. I think it's going to make the whole challenge and system of picking slip sinker size a lot more easy to take care of here. Also, guys, before we get started, a couple quick things. Just a quick invitation. Anybody interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, all you got to do is go to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, and shoot me a private message. I do most of my lessons here in Missouri on Table Rock and Stockton Lake. Great way to learn more about a technique you're weak on. And also, guys, thank you very much for everybody that's been going in and using the links I put in every video description. I will link some of my favorite slip sinker links in the description in my Tackle Warehouse link in this video. Tackle Warehouse has got a bunch of good Black Friday sales going on, so if you want to stock up on some sinkers or tackle, using that link of mine in the description of the video is a good way to get that done and help the channel at the same time, so really appreciate that. Okay, slip sinker size, guys. One of the things about it is I think that most bass anglers, they have a way too limited view and a limited number of sinker sizes that they use. I have got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different sizes of sinkers I use. And I want to go through each one of them in today's video and sort of explain to you guys the baits I use with them and the conditions they work in. So we'll get on that. Okay, first one, let's start light. First one I got is a little 1/16 ounce sinker here, 1/16. Now the times that I use the 1/16 ounce sinker, guys, is usually some type of a situation like where I'm fishing primarily like a Senko or a soft plastic stick bait. You know, a lot of times you want to fish a Senko or soft plastic stick bait weightless for that slow fall, but another time you can put a 1/16 of an ounce sinker on it. And I like to pitch it like around docks and shallow cover, and it still sinks pretty slow, but it still sinks slow, but it doesn't sink so slow that you simply can't cover any water or have to deal with any type of a penetration, or, you know, it just makes it easier to fish it in and around shallow cover. So let's say, for example, if a weightless Senko sinks about like that, just super sinker, so slow, a 1/16 of an ounce is going to sink just about like that. So you can cover more water with it, pitching and flipping. And I like to use the 1/16 around some type of clean targets, like, again, like the edge of boat dock pilings or something like that. Okay, the next size that I go up is, this is a 1/8 ounce sinker. Grab one out here. 1/8 ounce sinker is one of my favorite sizes to use. I use an 1/8 ounce sinker for, again, a lot of pitching and flipping. A tube on an 1/8 ounce sinker is really good. Sometimes you can take like an 1/8 ounce sinker and put it on a big 10 or 12 inch worm, and it's a real good sinker size for swimming that worm. Anytime that I'm trying to penetrate, or not penetrate, but efficiently fish shallow water cover that's like less than 3 foot of water, I'll use the 1/8 ounce sinker. And another time I use the 1/8 ounce sinker is on my big bulky plastics. If you have a big bulky soft plastic like a Zoom brush hog, or, you know, maybe a big fat plastic worm that's 7 or 8 inches long, the bulk of that weight, the bulk of the worm makes that worm already pretty easy to pitch or flip. And that light 1/8 ounce sinker on there allows you just to be more efficient with it, pitching and flipping that shallow cover with it. Okay, the next size that I use a lot, and this is probably one of my favorite sizes, is a 3/16. 3/16 is the same way. I'm using all these, well, they're all going to be on my soft plastics, worms, creature baits, tubes, that type of deal. 3/16 is a very versatile weight. It's like it's heavy enough to penetrate cover. You can penetrate some fairly sparse cover, like lay down trees and maybe even some openings and lily pads. Yet, you know, it doesn't fall like a rock. It's a really good bait, you know, to efficiently cover shallow water with. I probably use a 3/16 ounce sinker as much as any other size out there. A lot of people don't go that light, but I have found that if you're pitching and flipping or casting, a 3/16 ounce sinker is very, very appealing to the bass in that situation. Okay, the next size that we're going up here to, this is going to be a 1/4 ounce sinker. 1/4 ounce, just a little bit more. Now the 1/4 ounce, when I start getting into heavier sinkers like the 1/4 ounce, it's going to be for a little bit thicker cover or maybe a little bit windier situation. So let's say, for example, I was pitching, a worm or a brush hog on the 3/16 into some lay down trees that had, just isolated limbs coming down in it. With the 1/4 ounce sinker, let's say that the limbs are a little bit more gnarly and maybe there's some, some finer branches that makes it a little bit harder to get into. That's when I go to the 1/4 ounce sinker. Or if I'm pitching clean cover, like to the edge of a boat dock or something like that, and I have been using a 3/16 or an eighth, but it happens to be a windy day, like the wind's blowing 10 or 15 miles an hour, I may go to the 1/4 ounce to offset that wind and a little bit thicker cover penetration. Okay, the next one, this is one of my favorite pitching and flipping sizes for any type of a creature bait when the fish are in like flooded cover or a little bit thicker cover, and that's a 5/16. 5/16 is a really good cover. It's a really good bait to fish in thicker cover where it's not matted. So let's say, for example, you have, you're flipping and pitching, matted hydrilla or milfoil, and you've got openings about that big in it. That's a really good, time for a 5/16. The 5/16 is probably my favorite size to flip and pitch in flooded cover. So if you got flooded willow trees and flooded bushes like buckbrushes and stuff like that, there's something about a 5/16 that works really, really good. And another time that the 5/16 works good in is a good summertime weight. For something about the size of a 5/16 the bass really like in summer. 5/16 is also the size of sinker I use if I'm fishing a big worm deep. So if I'm fishing like a 10 or 12 inch zoom old monster, like in 15 or 20 foot of water, 5/16 is a really good bait for that. Okay, the next one is a little bit bigger here. This is going to be a 3/8 sinker. 3/8, once again, it's not much bigger than a 5/16, it's just a little bit bigger. And the 3/8 is going to be another step up when your cover increases in density, or you're fishing deeper, or you're fishing on a more of a windy day. So now the wind's up 15 miles an hour or so, maybe 20 miles an hour. You're still flipping and pitching around shallow cover. The 3/8 is going to be one that you're going to want to upgrade from the 5/16. Now, just because you're using heavier, lighter sinkers doesn't mean I'm using smaller baits. Also, the smaller sinkers can also work on your little finessey baits, but I'm talking about the same bait for the same sinker. If I'm using a full-size zoom brush hog, I can use it on a 3/16 or I can use it on a 3/8, just depending on the situation that I'm in. And also with that, in addition to making it efficient as far as penetrating cover, the aggressiveness or the lack of aggressiveness on a sinker size has a big impact with it. So, the warmer the water, a lot of times the heavier sinker is going to work better to create a reaction strike. Then on the other side of the coin, if you got more cooler water, off-colored water, maybe the water visibility is only like, 15, 20 inches visibility and the water temperature is 50 degrees, that's when that slower sinker is going to work a little bit better. So in addition to the type of cover that you're fishing, the mood and the personality of the bass on what triggers the strike through how fast that bait falls is another big indicator with it. Okay, up above there is we're going to have the 1/2 ounce. Now, the 1/2 ounce sinker is significantly bigger than a lot of the ones that I use. A lot of people fish a 1/2 ounce sinker for flipping and pitching. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes I see people making is like when they're using something like a beaver or some type of a creature bait, they use a 1/2 ounce sinker because it's easy to flip, it's easy to pitch, it goes in easy, but it falls fast. A 1/2 ounce sinker falls pretty fast with any type of a Texas rig soft plastic. So don't get hung up on it, too much as far as just because it's easy. The only time that I use a 1/2 ounce sinker is if I'm fishing really thick cover, like the cover's getting more and more matted all the time, it's tighter and more gnarly, or if my cover is in deeper water. Let's say, for example, I'm flipping lay down trees and that lay down tree is, on a steep bank and maybe the end of that tree is in 8 or 10 foot of water. The 1/2 ounce sinker is going to allow me to get that bait down there quicker. So I might go to a 1/2 ounce, get it down deeper, or if there's some current or some wind, is going to get it down faster. And then we start to get up in the big boys, and both of these are going to be the same here. This is your 3/4 ounce and your 1 ounce sinkers, or 1.25 ounces. The big heavy, sinkers like this. The 3/4 ounce and 1 ounce sinkers. Now, the big 1 ounce sinkers are pretty much limited to me for flipping and pitching, and 3/4 too. 3/4 and 1 ounce both. I sort of consider them the same thing. They are baits that I use exclusively for penetrating matted thick cover. So if I'm flipping and pitching like, hyacinths that are matted, flipping and pitching matted hydrilla, matted milfoil, any type of grass that's matted where you got little bitty openings in it, that's when I'm going to be using the 3/4 and the 1 ounce sinker. And the only reason I'm using it, I'm not using it to get for the fast fall. I'm using it to get the bait through the cover. That's the only reason I've got that big of a sinker on there. And then again, for my Carolina rigs, I'll use a 1 ounce sinker on that. But here's some advice, guys, let me give you on that as far as, picking that sinker. One of the things to remember all the time is that you always want to try to get away with the lightest sinker that you can. And one of the reasons for that is when you have a bigger sinker on the end of a soft plastic or worm, it will cause you to lose fish, because what happens is that big sinker, if that fish comes up and grabs that whole bait in its mouth, it's got the sinker in its mouth, it's got the worm in its mouth, and you set the hook on that, a lot of times the force of the hook set and that big ball of lead in the fish's mouth will blow that fish's mouth open, and you don't get a hook in it. So the big sinker is going to impede your hook set, and it's going to impede the ability to hook the fish. And also, if you got the bait pegged or something, say you have a 3/4 or 1 ounce weight pegged, when that fish comes up and jumps with that 1 ounce weight in his mouth, that gives the fish a tremendous amount of leverage to throw that hook. When you've got a 1 ounce piece of lead on the outside of that fish's mouth and that fish is jumping like that, it can work that hook out of that fish's mouth super easy when it jumps. So you're always going to do better if you go lighter, in my opinion. It's like, I have found in my own fishing that the lighter the sinker that you use, the bigger the fish you catch, and the more bites you get. Now, like I said, a lot of people just get locked in to fishing a heavier sinker because it's easier to fish. You can cover more water with it, it gets to the bottom quicker, and there's some situations where that's true. There's some situations when the fish are active and aggressive that you don't have to fart around with them, and you can just, it's as quick as you can get that bait in and out of there that's going to work. But that's an exception to the rule. More than not, if you stick, guys, one piece of advice I'll give you, if you stick to the 1/8 ounce and the 3/16 ounce sinkers for all of your soft plastics, I don't care if it's casting, pitching, and flipping, or whatever, at the end of the year, you're going to catch more fish. That natural slow presentation is just a lot more appealing to the fish overall than it is for that, big, fat, honking piece of lead. Another thing with that is really try to match your slip sinker color to the bait that you're using. It doesn't have to be exact, but if I'm using, a June bug or black and blue worm, I'm going to be using a black sinker. And if I'm using some type of a watermelon or green pumpkin, I'm going to have some type of a brown or green pumpkin sinker on it. I think it really, really helps. And finally, if you can get by with it, do not peg your sinker. Pegging a slip sinker, there's different schools of thought on it, but I think it's better. I think you get more bites and land more fish if you do not have that sinker peg. So only peg it out of the necessity of being efficient if you're coming in and out of heavy cover. So anyway, guys, just a little broad conversation on slip sinkers. Hope it helps you guys land some more fish and get some more bites, and we'll talk later.